Everything on earth is energy. Every single thing on earth is energy. And you can connect to that energy if you surrender and let go, and not in the egocentric mind of like, oh, I'm trying to connect. Because that's one of the things with some of my clients are like, I want to connect with my spirit guides, but I have no idea how. And I'm like, well, are you going in meditation? Are you going outside and looking and searching and like saying, hey, come connect now? Are you in a masculine energy when you're asking for it? It's not going to come. It comes when you surrender and you let go and you trust. And trust is a really, really big thing. And that's one thing I work tremendously on with any of my clients is learning to trust yourself, learning to trust your intuition, learning to trust God, universe, source, whatever that is to you, creating safety in the body. If we can't trust ourselves, if we don't have any safety in our body in this physical realm and in our spiritual realm too. So it's a lot of deconditioning that's happening. Hey y'all, I am Jessica Ann. I like to say retired RN, even though I still have my nursing license. So just a very brief background. I was a registered nurse. I've been in healthcare since I was probably 15. I just have always loved to help people. So during COVID, I actually got severely burnt out. I was a hospice nurse. So I was working with the dying during COVID and had a really epic spiritual awakening, breakdown, whatever you want to label that as. And I actually completely pivoted to more holistic healing. So I've been a Reiki Master, Somatic Practitioner for 10 years. And during COVID, I was just like, fuck this. I had 2 kids under 2, was working on-call night shift, and I just completely shifted. So now, fast forward 5 years later, I do somatic and energy healing. I teach it. I help women really just reclaim their power, reclaim their energy, because everything on earth is energy. So when we look at it in that terms, I really help people heal their trauma. Everyone has fucking trauma. Every single person, any limiting belief you have, anything, any emotional disturbance, anything like that is energy. So I actually love to teach about energy too, but I work with women just to help them heal and to up-level their life and their business. When we look at the business models and why everything's falling apart, it's because people aren't aligned energetically with their mission and their vision. So I really like to help people get really clear on that and just get back into alignment with who they are meant to be in this lifetime, leading into your soul's purpose. So that's a little bit of what I do.
Yeah, I love that, man. There's a lot there too.
There's a lot, yeah.
So are you involved at all in like the I guess it would be the mainstream medical system anymore, like nursing?
No, not really. I am a little bit, just because I work with so many burnout nurses, so I get to see and hear about it through that. I also have a lot of nurses that come through my certification that are looking for holistic healing, to get back to the truth of healing and not the mainstream healthcare bullshit that is going on. And the system's breaking.
This episode is brought to you by Excel Coaching Academy. Hey guys, I'm really excited to let you know that I started a mindset coaching business. So what I want to do with this business is I want to help entrepreneurs, business owners, salespeople, leaders, and fitness enthusiasts or athletes develop the right mindset to increase revenue, improve business or performance, and overcome the challenges needed to become the best version of themselves. You can get more information about this by emailing info@excelcoaching.academy. Well, that was exactly my point that I was going to make. It's like, you had to pursue another career to help people heal.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make sense to me when you were already a nurse. You know what I mean? And I think this just sort of solidifies how I talk about, because look, I beat like the education system and the healthcare system. I just beat the hell out of that on this podcast. I talk about it like all the time, how it's broken, but I mean, it is. But like you were in there and you had to pursue another career to help people because I don't know, did you not feel like it was, you weren't?
It was just a Band-Aid. It was just a Band-Aid. So it's all about medication. When we look at medication, yes, I agree that medication is needed and surgeries are needed, and our healthcare, some parts of it are extremely beneficial. And I do believe that sometimes people need medication in order to subside with their symptoms, but we're using it as a Band-Aid. We're not getting to the root cause. Doctors are literally in rooms for like 5 to 10 minutes and they're rushed and they're charting shit that they didn't even assess. Like, it's just crazy. And then they're like, oh, here's a pill. This is going to fix your symptom. Well, we're causing them to die faster. Do you know? And that's one of the big things with hospice, because I did hospice for almost a decade. And the whole reason I loved hospice is because it was the most holistic thing I felt like I could do being a nurse, but we were getting patients on sooner and sooner and sooner, younger and younger and younger, 40s, 50s with cancer left and right. It just was astonishing. I was like, our healthcare system is just completely fucked. They only care about money. They only care about what is best for them. They don't care about the nurses. That's why we have so many people leaving the healthcare field. It's because they're not feeling valued, and we're actually not helping people heal. We're fucking making it worse to some extent. So
That's crazy. So you had people 40 years old on hospice.
yes.
But isn't like
these super rare cancers that are like 1%. Yeah, I could even go into like our water system here. I live in Missouri, and we had 3 very, very, very rare cancers that it's like less than 0.2%, I think, in the whole US. We had 3 cases here in Odessa. This is the area that I live in. Not to call Odessa out, but that's like the area I live in. And I'm like, for one, it's all the fucking chemicals. I mean, okay, I'm gonna go to whole rabbit hole.
Let's go,
here,
man.
but
Let's get there. Let's go.
it is what's being put in our food, what's being put in our water system, especially here in Odessa. I'm like, we have crops everywhere. We have chemicals everywhere because they're spraying all the fucking time. So I'm like, yeah, what is linked to all the cancer? Everything that you're putting in our food, everything that you're polluting our air with, everything that's in our water that you say is safe. It's everything. It's everything.
Well, I'm sure you know this, but there's like a direct correlation between IQ and fluoride in the water. Like the heavily, and you know what? Like this is just, I think it's just obvious, but this just needs to be said. But and this is without a doubt going to piss some people off, but like the whole trans thing, the whole transgender thing that's going on.
Yeah.
That's also really connected to the water supply. Like if you look at the water supply, like it's all, it looks like it's all happening around big cities, like bigger cities. I mean, there's some people on the outskirts that are doing it too, but like the whole sort of thing that's affected people. And this is not just a conservative, like right-wing conspiracy theory or whatever, because the same thing is happening with everybody with like testosterone levels, like general health, like the shit is going, it's like going downhill. So I don't think it's a coincidence that like these areas where the water, there's like a huge water supply, like people are on public water, like major cities and stuff. They're having the testosterone decline, which everybody is, and they're having the IQ thing around these populated areas. And they're also having this other, like, so I'm sure you know who Alex Jones is. Alex Jones, he was talking about how there was something in the water that was like literally taking frogs and changing, like castrating the frogs, like in the water. And so you're telling me that's, yeah, you haven't
I didn't hear about that. No,
bro.
I'm gonna have to research this now.
Hang on a minute, because I can fact check while we're on the podcast. I gotta look this up there. But yeah, it's the chemical is called I think it's called atrazine. And basically what was happening was it was castrating the frogs, so it was changing the gender of the frogs. And he, just like everything that he says, when he said this, people just lost their mind because they were like, whatever. But then it turns out he was true, like most of the stuff that he says, and it was a huge thing. He's been on Joe Rogan talking about this and all kinds of stuff.
Oh my gosh, where have I been? I didn't know about that.
But I mean,
I've been in my circle.
But like, just to go back to your point, man, the stuff that's in the water supply, and that's just part of the problem, because the rest of it is like the stuff that's in the food. Like, I don't know if you heard this or not. I've talked about this on the podcast too. So the University of Texas at Dallas did a study on yellow food dye.
Yeah, yellow and red 40 is the worst.
And it turned the stomachs, the outer part of the stomachs of mice transparent. Let's just like comprehend this for a minute. The same thing that's in like candy and M&Ms and shit. It turned the outer skin of these mice like temporarily transparent. Yeah. Anyway, so, and that's why.
No.
That's why with like RFK Jr., like I'm really supporting his mission about taking all the stuff out of the food.
Absolutely.
Because if you go to another country, like their ingredient list is half of what it is in the US.
Yes.
And the US and all of our pride, we want to think that we're just so sophisticated. But like if you go to these other countries, man.
Nah, UK is the fucking jam. Like, I'm about to move to the UK.
Bro, and then like, okay, you go to, well, I don't know if I get that far, but well, maybe just stay out of London. I just say that. if you look at like all these other countries, they speak multiple languages. Here in the US, people barely speak one language. Like most people can't even speak English properly. And then these other places have multiple languages they speak. I'm like, man, how do we like, and when I say this, people think like, oh, I don't care about the country. And you're like, you know, you're not patriotic, but it's like, I am. That's why I'm talking about this, because if I go to another country right now, there is a good chance they can speak English. And I understand English is, you know, one of the dominant languages and all that. But like the point is, most of us can't speak more than one language. And then we have the health thing. Like, I'm pretty sure I heard a statistic, don't know if this is true or not, that approximately 40% of children are considered obese in America.
Yeah, I think it's higher than that. Yeah.
Bro, that is insane. That is crazy. That is actually crazy.
It is. It is, absolutely. And that's why when I had my kids, it was such a huge awakening for me of like, and hospice too, and COVID obviously as well. I could go on a whole energy theory about that in just a second. But for my children, we are very holistic minded. I am very holistic minded. Like, that is when I got back to the roots of like, okay, what's going in our food? Because I can tell if my son has red 40, if he has a bag of Doritos, which I do the 80-40 rule, 80% whole, good, holistic, 20% your body can filter out usually, and it's not a problem. But even like when my son has red 40, I can tell instantly. Hypervigilant, going crazy, running around. His nervous system is so heightened. It just, and that always pairs back to the nervous system too, of what energy we're putting in our body and what is going in our body and how it is disrupted and how it is distributed as well in your body has a huge, huge role within your nervous system and how you act. And our food, I mean, going back to the language thing too, I'm actually teaching my kids Spanish now too, because I want their IQ to be higher. And just get their brain going. But even that's the standpoint too of people being so, oh, you're in America, you should speak English. Here in the Midwest, we have old countrymen that are so honed in of the patriarchal, you know, society driven what they grew up in. But actually, I'm like, no, it keeps your brain healthy to learn all of these other languages, to learn all of these other modalities. And people just get so egocentric and driven, like in their belief system, that, I grew up I say half Catholic because my grandma raised a lot of me when I was little. I was always there. But even like religion aspect too, like it's just heavily instilled in our society. And now all of that's breaking apart and all of that's breaking down. That's why people are just going fucking crazy, because they're starting to hear the truth about things and they don't want to hear it.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think this has been a long time coming, man, because I was talking 10 years ago about like all these conspiracies and all this stuff. People thought I was crazy. And then
same.
Like and so I've been talking about this for a while, but let me show you. I looked this up while you were saying that. Let me share this. I'm gonna share my screen with you. Hang on just a second. Why did it do that? I'm gonna share my screen with you. And this is a study about the frog situation. All right, can you see this?
Yep.
All right. This is from Berkeley News, if you don't know, whatever. So actually, so it's a pesticide, atrazine, can turn male frogs into females. The herbicide atrazine, one of the most world's widely used pesticides, screws up the sex lives of adult male frogs, emasculating 3/4 of them and turning 1 in 10 into females, according to a new study by UC Berkeley's Tyrone Hayes. Yeah, so I'm not sure exactly how it does this. I don't know the biology of frogs or whatever, how this happens, but yeah, it says 75% that are chemically castrated are essentially dead because of their inability to reproduce in the wild. So those die off if they're castrated. They die off basically because they can't. That little that DNA.
That is crazy.
Yeah, this is crazy. These male frogs are missing testosterone and all the things that testosterone controls, including sperm. So their fertility is as low as 10% in some cases, and that is only if we isolate those animals and pair them with females. In an environment where they are competing with unexposed animals, they have zero chance of reproducing. I mean, that's just crazy, man. Like
population control.
And this is a pesticide. So like you were talking about like all the stuff being sprayed or whatever on your, you know, whatever you were talking about, the crops, whatever, like it's very likely that's in that. Now, obviously a frog is like way smaller than a human. So, you know, you're talking about volume, like how much, but it doesn't matter because it's over a timeline. It's over a long enough timeline. So like, I mean, these things have to have an effect, man. Like
Yeah.
And for us to just sort of turn a blind eye, I think it's gotten to the point where we can no longer like turn a blind eye to this, because there's so much,
Hmm.
like there's so much now, that so much awareness, even though a lot of people are still sort of had the rose colored glasses on, but there's so much awareness about this stuff, and it's happening on such a long timeline. Like it's just, I don't know. And especially since we're talking about energy, like energetically, I think people just feel like something's happening. You know what I mean? Like there's a shift going on, I feel like. Because a lot of people
Yeah.
in this space, they talk about this. Like some sort of evolution is happening with I guess us as humans.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I'm not super keened in on astrology, but I will say in the astrological world, like we're moving into the new era of Earth. And I'm sure you've
right.
heard that.
Yep.
Yeah. It's just like this evolution process of like what isn't working, like what systems, what the I don't like to say the enemy, but it is. It's the enemy. It's demonic entities. It's a lower vibrational frequencies. It's control. It's ego driven. It's
Hmm.
we're shifting out of that spiritual warfare. Essentially, it's a
Hmm.
fucking spiritual warfare that is
Oh, for
happening
sure. For
within
sure.
everyone's minds.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. That's the big thing, is like that it is a spiritual warfare.
yeah.
Because like, we hear about World War I and World War II and like all the wars before that, assuming the wars before that were real. Like, because assuming that whoever is the oldest person that is alive, the wars before that, anything we're basically going on the trust of that's what the history was. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And there's evidence or whatever, and I say that in air quotes. There's evidence, but like everybody talks about World War III and like the next big thing. Like, dude, it's already here. It's because it's either a spiritual war or it's a cyber war, if not both combined.
Yeah.
But like, because
Yeah.
I think when people think about like the next world war, the next big thing, they think about like what it's been in the past, like the bombs and
I
shit.
know
And I
it's a
know,
spiritual warfare.
yeah,
100%.
yeah,
It's
and
already
it's like,
happening. It's been happening for since COVID.
but like, okay, but the question is, so when there's a war, like one of the two sides usually wants some sort of control or power or whatever. So like,
Hmm.
what is the purpose? Like, why would I guess this would be good and evil. That's the only thing I can really think of.
Yeah, that's my
So,
perspective is for me, God is pure love. I don't believe it is some bearded man that lives in heaven that XYZ. Like for me, God is a pure consciousness is pure love. 100%. And so when I look at it, just like what was going on with Israel, like
mm.
obviously it was a big war, like actual war. That is that still happening? I'm so fucking like out of like the
I'll be
news,
honest.
dude.
I'll be
I
honest with
have
you. I don't
no
know, man.
idea.
I get glimpses of it because you cannot dive into that stuff. You can't,
Yeah,
because you will
you
be
can.
like wrecked for the rest of the
That's
day.
why I
Like,
don't.
yeah, because so I don't know. I honestly don't
So
know.
I don't. Okay, cool. I'm not the
Yeah, I
only
mean,
one because I just.
it's
Oh,
a very privileged thing for us to be like, I don't know if that's going on or not. But and I get that, I understand that. But like
yeah.
at the same time, man,
It's just a very conscious thing too of I don't want to lower my frequency and watch the chaos that's happening because the end result, like I know that consciousness, God, whatever, I don't care if you believe in the tree outside. I don't care what your belief
mm,
system is whatsoever.
yeah,
As long as you're doing good, and that is the whole thing is with the spiritual warfare, even with COVID, and I'm going to bring it back to COVID just because it was a profound experience of a spiritual warfare that was happening with the COVID
mhm,
vaccines. Um, it is the lower frequencies of wanting to be in control in this materialistic world. We can have heaven and hell on earth. You get to choose whether you are creating your own hell or you are creating your heaven and what you are able to dive into and what side per se you're going to be on. Now, are we human and do we live on earth? Is everyone going to fucking sin? Yes, absolutely. Like
mhm.
I don't believe in sin and I don't know why I'm going so religious right now or spiritual. I like to use spiritual, but
Hey, it's all good, man.
um there is a standpoint that does say because I do go to church. It's
Hmm.
non-denominational because it's very higher consciousness the way this pastor
Hmm.
speaks. He speaks about spiritual warfare. He speaks about all the things. We dive into the Bible and his is all about perspectives of what is the message here. So it's not like condoning like Catholic Church of oh, you have these 10 commandments and you have to follow these or you're going to fucking go to hell. That's
Right.
that's not what I jam out with. But a sin is really just a missed arrow and you have the opportunity to realign and to come back, have forgiveness for yourself, depending on, like, I'm not saying like raping, killing, like, absolutely fucking not. That is demonic activity
Right.
100%. That is not somebody's true self. That is doing those acts. That is something that is instilled in them that unfortunately has been taken over by them. That is my belief system anyway. But just because I've been in the energy healing spiritual woo space so long. I know what that is. But anyway, but that is my philosophy on it, is that we get to choose how we evolve. And so with the new earth, all of the structures, and not that it's structures serve us tremendously. Yeah, they really do. Because if we didn't have any structure, we'd be outside chasing rainbows all day. Like,
Yeah.
there's truth to structures 100%, but it is the lower frequency structures that wants control. That's what's falling apart as we're building the new earth, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that does make sense. And I want to get back to this, but I want to make a slight little tangent just for a second. You mentioned COVID and the vaccine. So if you get a blood transfusion from somebody, just speaking from the nursing background, so if I need a blood transfusion, am I able to see if this person has been vaccinated, like where this blood is coming from?
Usually, no. No, I don't know if that has changed though since the COVID vaccine. I think you can request. I don't know. That's actually really good. I felt like I heard that you can request to see if somebody has had the COVID vaccine, but I don't think it's well monitored. So you really probably just don't know.
Yeah, that's crazy. That came to my mind when you were saying that, because I'm not vaccinated, obviously, and
Yeah.
I don't want to get blood that has been,
Yeah, I don't either. That's
anyway,
actually really good. We need to
Yeah.
research that, because
Well, but then it's like, I don't know
know.
with like HIPAA and stuff. I don't know if you could, but look, I understand the privacy and everything, but if
Yeah.
you're getting somebody's blood, I think you have the right to know like what's going on. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I don't want just Joe Blows, but there are certain things, like you can't have certain diseases, or you can't have certain
right.
disorders or
Yeah.
whatever when you do go. There's certain guidelines.
Mm.
I feel like there is non-COVID and then there's COVID, and they separate it. But like I said, I don't know. It's probably not that well monitored
Yeah.
on the system that they have in place. So,
Okay. Well, anyway,
and yeah, it's crazy. Sorry, here in Kansas City, I love Kansas City, but it's a very rough community in certain aspects, just like Detroit or
Oh, yeah.
anywhere. So we have a lot of drug use, actually
Mm.
downtown. And anyone can go. I mean, yes, there's restrictions, but they still take anyone. So I'm very,
Like for blood
yeah,
drives and stuff.
yeah.
Huh.
They go give plasma all the time, like drug addicts, and
Well, you get paid for that, right? You get paid
yeah,
for
you get paid for
plasma?
it.
Yeah.
For
Huh.
plasma. Yeah.
Huh.
It's just very interesting. But it makes me question now too of, man, I wonder how strict the regulations are, because I bet they're not that well monitored. And but that could be spreading too and that's the thing. Yeah, my brain. It goes in like a
There's
million different
a,
ways.
gosh, there's a thing. I don't know. It's some sort of like filtering of your blood. You can get your blood basically drawn out. They can take your blood out and they can run it through some sort of. It's expensive to do, but they can run it through some sort of process. It's supposed to eliminate like heavy metals and toxins and stuff like that.
Sounds like
heard of.
dialysis.
Well, no, it's not. It's a little bit more in depth than that.
Well,
It's like I've heard of like people from like the military people have done. I don't know if you know who Sean Ryan is. He's got a podcast. He's kind of somewhat famous, but anyway, they run your blood through this system, and it's supposed to filter out all these like heavy metals and stuff. But it's really, really expensive. Like the average person is not gonna do it.
Yeah.
And so and I don't know. It's supposed to like do something with the plasma and stuff. I don't know, whatever. But I got to figure out what that's called. But yeah, I don't know. That would be a good question, because like I mean, I guess if you're there and you need a blood transfusion, beggars can't be choosers. But at the same time,
right.
like I think you have a right to know
what's going on. Yeah, what's going in your body. Absolutely. But I think that all goes back in play with the COVID vaccine, even of they were trying to force it for a reason. And
yeah. Well, what's crazy, man, is like they. So I don't know. I'm just saying this. Okay, this is just speculation. I can't fact check this, but I'm pretty sure. Didn't Fauci get pardoned by Biden? Didn't he have a pardon?
I'm so fucking lost in the politic realm. I have no idea.
Okay. Well. Either way, I mean, you're right. They it was forced, and like they hid the negative side effects of that. Like there were so many side effects that they hid. And then, like,
you wouldn't even believe.
Facebook and YouTube like deleted shit when they was talking about this.
Oh yeah, I was doing home health too at the time, and you would not believe how many patients we had after they got the vaccine that came back with CVAs that were paralyzed, that couldn't walk
Yeah.
anymore, that couldn't talk anymore, that just dropped over. I mean, you see it everywhere, but I was just
Yep.
firsthand like experiencing that because I was doing home health too at the time. And it's just crazy.
Well, so there's a conspiracy theory that was like, they want to whatever the people who didn't get the vaccine are obviously the rebellious types or whatever, and so
Yeah.
they want to eliminate them, like whatever the case
Because we're
is.
higher conscious.
But it's like, okay, well, if you have all these health, because it's like, okay, this was the theory that they want to give you this vaccine and it's gonna like basically you're infertile at that point and you can't reproduce or whatever. But I'm like, okay, well, if I don't really know that I believe that, because if you're going to give somebody something that damages them, wouldn't you want to kill off the part of the population that doesn't follow you, that doesn't listen to you, which would be the people who didn't take the vaccine?
Yeah.
Or does that mean, that something else is going to come along that wipes out those people who aren't vaccinated? So it gets deep, man.
Yeah, well, my philosophy and just what I have seen energetically is the COVID vaccine was meant to disconnect you from your heart space. That's why energetically we had so many heart disruptions who got the COVID vaccine. So it actually hit the pericardium and the heart space, and your pericardium is your opening energetically. It is like your openness to receive and give love. Guess what God is? Pure love. That's how we connect human to human, is through love and connection and those hormones. And the heart space. So when people did get the COVID vaccine, they were in that lower frequency and a fear-driven state. They were in fear,
right,
because of what was happening.
Yep.
And then you get the COVID vaccine, and guess what? It was actually meant to keep you disconnected.
Man, that's actually a really good point. That's actually a really good point, because I think something similar happened with fluoride. Like fluoride is the pineal gland. You can't access it the way you can, without. And that's crazy. So now we have the spiritual part of the mind, which most people, let's just be honest, most people are probably fucked by fluoride. I mean, most people have had way too much fluoride in their life, because by the time we even knew about it, like whatever it was 5 years ago, whatever it was like it was in water supply, it was in everything, and it was in toothpaste, whatever. And so, but now we're saying it's also a disconnection from the heart because of the COVID vaccine, and that's insane.
It's all meant to disconnect you.
Yeah, well, so speaking of disconnect, to go back to like God and spirituality for a minute. So we were talking about spiritual warfare. I do believe that God is a supreme being that created everything.
Yeah.
And so with saying that, because the law of polarity is for sure a real thing. Like things, the opposite of things exist. They can't exist without their opposite also existing. Yeah. Which means that there is a force either in this dimension or somewhere that is the opposite of that. So it's like, there is good and evil is what I'm trying to say. There's good and there's evil. And I think it's clear what's going on is that there is a spiritual warfare, but it's like, what would the purpose of that be? Because like, would it be the only thing I can really think of, which I guess is just inevitable for good and evil to have a warfare at some point. But it's like, we as humans, temporary human energetic beings, what do we play in that? Are we basically being harvested for energy? Is that what this is? Is this an energy thing? Is the energy being consumed? Because we talked earlier about, getting on Facebook or social media and you're just inundated with all this negativity and it just zaps your energy. Like there was, you were talking about astrology. There was sometime around the new year or whatever, I started seeing a lot of this stuff on TikTok, like don't drink alcohol over the new year because that lowers your energy and we're going to ascend to the next thing, at this point. And if you're in a low energetic state, you're not going to go to the next level or whatever it was. And I don't know anything nearly enough about that, but I mean, what I guess the question would be like, why is this happening? You know what I mean? Like why are we, I don't know. And maybe it's just we're supposed to evolve to whatever the next thing is.
I think that's what it is for me anyway. That's my perspective, is that we sign up for what we're going to experience here on Earth before we even come down.
I was just having a conversation with somebody about this. So what is that? The soul contracts? That's what she referred to as a soul
contracts. So essentially, you kind of already know in this lifetime. I believe in past lives because I do past life regression sessions with people and how fucking healing it is. But because energy always plays out. Anyway, I believe in past lives. I believe that we have had these experiences before and we come to Earth to evolve. So every time we come back to Earth in these lifetimes, we are evolving each time we come back. I don't believe that there is obviously that the highest form of energy is being a spiritual whatever. I believe in ghosts too. I believe in inner dimensions and ghosts getting stuck here and all the things. But um when you are that close to God in that 12th dimension, they only feel love. Like if you are per se in heaven, you only feel love. You feel pure bliss. I don't know if you've ever dived into people that have had near death experiences where they say they died and they came back. Like that feeling that they had is just pure bliss. So you can't experience anything else when you're in that form. So that's why I believe we do come to Earth to experience a different range of feelings, emotions, experiences, and to evolve each time that we do come back and to play out the karma.
Yeah.
Or however you want to term that.
Well, that's actually a really interesting theory. So like the soul contract, so you know exactly the life you're going to live before you get here, which I'm assuming you know why you're going to live that life, like whatever it is you're going to learn or however you're going to evolve or whatever. But the crazy thing about that is, man, is like people talk, does that play into reincarnation too? Is that a thing? Because I hear that if that's the case, if we come here, if we know what we're going to do before we get here and why we're going to do it and all the ups and downs that we have in life, that reincarnation is basically a trap. So like when you die and you go to the light, that's basically being reborn into Earth, and you should be not going to the light, I guess, to into your eternal existence, whatever that is. But I mean, because then that sort of opens up the door too, because people say that, like, and this is what I was talking to Alyssa about a couple days ago. That I'm sorry, not Alyssa. This was fuck, I forgot her name. Fuck, I'm so
that
sorry.
That happens to me all the time. It's fine.
No, it was because it was like two conversations that really that really sort of aligned. This was I am so sorry. I gotta see her name. We were talking a couple days ago about what this was, and this is fucked up. Chris, I'm sorry, Chris. Anyway, so we were talking, and I was like, okay, well, it's because some people say that Earth is a prison, like in another life before this, whatever happened, and we came here, and we're basically to improve or to grow through this. I don't agree with that. Yeah, I mean that's a heavy one. That's a heavy one. But like also too. So what I guess the holdup for me is like, what would be the purpose of sort of doing this loop over and over and over? I guess the purpose would be like you learn whatever lesson you're supposed to learn and then move on to the next thing. I guess that's why it might be a loop.
Yeah. And I think it's because too, I mean, yes, being blissful all the time would be great, but then you do, for me, it would get boring. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Okay. I mean,
but this is the thing though. So like this is we're on Earth, and like we have whatever these experiences are. Yeah. This is obviously the human mind limits whatever is inside of us because we can't understand. Like there's no way that the human mind can comprehend this. So we're basically limited on our our biological mind. But what if that's the place that we come from? If it's just like pure bliss, just like this supreme existence, what could we possibly learn that is going to be applicable to that experience or to that state of being? Because it's like that it's like we basically descend from such a place that is like so powerful and enlightening. What could we possibly know here in this temporary existence where we're in this matrix where we go and work every day to pay bills and then retire at 60 years old and we have 10 years left? Like what do you do? Like what could you possibly learn to take with you to the next level that you don't already know or have access to? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think so when you come down, let's say you're with this is just what they say, when you're with your galactic family up there, like planning your lifetime, we forget, it all gets erased when we come down here to Earth of what we, and even previous lifetimes, like energetically, they don't get erased because it's still with your soul. Right. So your soul still has that energetic trance. But I don't know, for me, I think it's just to experience and get to play. It's just like a playground for us to come here and to get to experience. Now, why you would want to come back and do that over and over and over again, I don't know. That's a really good fucking question because I don't know. Like I said, maybe I could see myself being up there, being in a super blissful state, being like, I'm fucking bored. Like I want to go do something else. I don't know if that's possible when you're up there, but I don't know.
but like I get that, but it's also too. It's like, so there's a theory that like the reason that the aliens don't come back and visit us or whatever, it's just not worth their time. Like they're so far
I
advanced.
believe that we are aliens, though. I believe that we have
Well, a lot of
aliens
people,
from here on Earth too.
yeah, a lot of people believe that. Dude, there's so many different theories about aliens. It's like a lot of people believe that what we think of when we think of an alien, like the short little gray person,
Yeah.
is like us from the future coming back to us to observe because something happened and they want to come back and observe what happened, probably some sort of nuclear warfare or whatever that destroyed
Uh-huh.
us. And they want to come back and see what happened. But then there's also too that people believe that we are part alien because when the Anunnaki came here and
Mm-hmm.
the pyramids were built, which we were talking about earlier, the pyramids were built. There was a group of people that was like the primates, the human primates, Neanderthals. Is that right? I can never pronounce that word. I think that's right.
Yeah.
And in an advanced alien race basically fused their DNA with those people, made us as a slave race because they wanted to harvest gold that was in the earth because they needed gold for their spaceships and stuff, all their technology. They wanted gold to harvest gold, and they basically just abandoned the project. And now we're here living lives, centuries later. But it's like, but so I don't know, man, because if if that's true, that means that like there are beings out there that basically created us to do a thing, and then now we're no longer worth their time because they're so far advanced. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they're like thousands of years ahead of us. So I
Yeah.
feel like the same thing would be true if we came from a higher place of spiritual being, and then
Mm-hmm.
it was possible for us to have this very limited existence on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah,
it,
that's what you literally just because as we were talking about space and like the globe.
yeah.
I think everyone lives here. We all
Well, that's what
live
I'm
within
saying.
the same like
Yeah,
dimensions,
yeah,
but
that's
it's
what I'm
whether
saying.
and that's why Bigfoot, like I think Bigfoot lives in the fourth dimension. That's why when you go hunt Bigfoot, you can't see
What
him and he doesn't come out.
Wait a minute. What do you mean fourth dimension?
So
Is that like
okay. So 3D dimension is like here on Earth. It is our
right?
physical body. It is our
Right.
physicalness. It is things that we can touch, we can see. They say fifth dimension is the love frequency of just angels, spirit
Okay.
guides. Spirit guides actually can come down to like the fourth dimension, obviously, and
Hmm.
communicate. It's all about consciousness. So if you look at it as a consciousness level, 3D is egocentric, materialistic,
Right.
physical body form. So I believe that Bigfoot, aliens, all these other things, they come into our consciousness when we believe and we attune to that frequency. That's why
Mm.
people that are hunting Bigfoot don't ever see sightings of Bigfoot because they are, yes, they believe, but it's very egocentric minded. It's searching. It's
Right.
searching for something. It's not surrendering and just letting go and seeing if it'll appear. That's the best way I could frame that. Does that
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
sense?
No. Yeah. I got you. And I mean that does make sense because if we are in fact limited, if we are a bigger spiritual being inside a very limited biological being,
Hmm.
then it just makes sense that there are senses that we can't access. And I think
Yeah.
one of those senses for sure, there's probably at least 5 senses that we don't have access to. And I think one of those senses for sure would be access to that interdimension, like that
Hmm.
interdimensional stuff. But yeah, I don't know, man. I just like, and that's what I'm saying. If we have all this innate power, and we have all this sort of this enlightenment that we don't have access to, okay,
We
this
do
would be
have
like
access. We do have access to it. It's when people get out of their egocentric mind and they tap into their innate wisdom within, and that is through that's through the nervous system. We can talk more about that in a minute, but continue
yeah,
on.
yeah. We'll get to that, but I'm gonna say this, and I'll shut up about this part of it. But it's like, okay, I just don't feel like it would be worth our time because think about this. Think about
Yeah.
you see an ant hill, an ant colony, or whatever, and it's like we thinking that we're so smart and we have different languages and we have all this stuff that we can do. Like, oh, I want to go experience what this ant feels like in his daily life. Bro, this thing is carrying around rocks that are like 10 times his size. He works all day long. Like he's building, everything he does is to
Yeah.
build a colony. Like, is that really worth your time to go use this energy to then spend on that to experience this? I feel like it wouldn't be worth our time. But then I want to
Oh,
sort of go on.
what if time's not real?
Well, it's probably not because so, man,
I'm
so,
sorry.
so
Yeah, we're going so
no, you're
rabbit
good.
hole.
You're good. No, we're good. We're good. I mean, I want to be able to talk about like what you do and stuff, but if you're good with this,
It's
we'll
cool.
keep going.
I'm cool. Let's go.
So, I mean, it's probably not real. It's just I think time is how we measure the experiences we have because there's no other
Hmm.
way that we can measure it.
Yeah.
But again, if we're experiencing, if we want to go experience this ant's little life and be in his life, like I just feel like if you're coming from like a person, it's just not worth your time to experience that. But maybe it's cool, maybe it's whatever, and that's why you do it. But I mean, to go off on a to the other hand here, I don't really like looking at it that way, because that makes it seem like the human experience is pointless. And whatever it is, it's not pointless. Like for sure, it's not pointless. Because we do have things like love. We experience those emotions and those kind of things. And I don't know. Maybe that's why we come here. Maybe that's why we come here, to experience that. Or maybe that's why, people say, like you mentioned earlier, that you think God is consciousness. People say that the human experience is basically God experiencing himself in multiple different interpretations. But again, I think that's a very narrowing, because I think there's no way, like whatever we are is in no way, shape, or form anything close to what God is. And so again, talking about God, would that be worth his time to, or his experience or whatever, to experience that? I mean, I don't know. There's so many different questions about that theory, but I do think it's a fascinating theory that we have a soul contract and we know what we're going to do before we get here.
Yeah, and I always like to add in that we always have, like, coming down and being in this form, we always have free will choice too. So just because you plan it up there, but if you come down here and let's say that unfortunately that you get overtaken by a demonic energy, or you tap into that frequency, and then your mind changes and shifts, and then it's like, oh, okay, got to pivot this way. Well, then you're collecting karma. And then it's like, oh, okay, so I'm going to commit suicide in this lifetime to get out of the mental and emotional suffering that I want a way out. And this is my way out. And I'm going to commit suicide and go back to the light. I mean, there's 1,000 different theories, circumstances, or whatever is there. But if we're looking at it in just, like you said, energy terms of different experiences, is that we always have free will choice. And that's where that, I don't like to say demonic, but that enemy or that lower frequency can come in and shift your free will choice, and it could just fuck up your soul contract that was supposed to be here, and that's what creates karma. And that's why we come back to evolve more. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. That's a good point. Because if we do descend from that higher thing and we come here for this experience, whatever the purpose of that experience is, and then we're battling this sort of the demonic force, the bad force on this earth to sort of get us off of that path. I mean, because I think there's plenty things in the human existence that can sort of distract you and deviate you from.
Oh, we have distractions every fucking day.
And that's what I'm saying. And that's so, like, all these things could possibly be demonic, because if the purpose of being here is to evolve and grow and grow spiritually as a being, but then you have all these different things that sort of divert you from that and test you from that. If that is your ultimate goal here on earth, then all those distractions are obviously demonic, because they distract you from that higher purpose. But again, I can't help but just question, like, what would be the purpose of that? I mean, I guess the purpose would be to evolve as a being, as a species, or as not a species, because that would be a temporary human existence, but as a being.
Yeah, experiences, like you said, I think, and I don't think we're going to know the answer to that until we descend, or we ascend back up, and then you're like, oh, that's why we do this, because it's just such a higher consciousness thought that I think our egocentric brain wants to wrap around, well, why are we doing that? Well, I don't think it's something we have the answer to.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe I think you're right. Maybe we, like I said earlier, we just don't have the ability to comprehend that. But I don't know. I've heard people say that reincarnation is a trap, but also too, like you said, earlier you mentioned ghosts and stuff. Like, isn't that just basically somebody who, my understanding of that is, if they linger around here, basically their mission was not solved or not completed, is the way I understand that.
I like to think of it as like soul fragmented pieces that sometimes they stick around because they have unfinished business, or their loved one is just pulling, like literally energetically pulling them back down. So one thing that hospice really, really taught me was, for one, to listen to my intuition. I would tap into their energy, like before going to a death, and they would tell me things. Like, it really enhanced my psychic abilities 100%, because they would tell me things before I got to where I arrived, of like, this is how I want this done. I want you to clear out the room. I want you to clear out even specific names, get them out of the room so I can pass peacefully. it was fucking epic. Like, honestly, some of the stories I have. But one thing hospice that did teach me is, oh my gosh, where was I going? I got distracted with with my psychic ability story. What were we talking about?
We were talking about, I think the last thing I said was,
Oh, reincarnations, right? Was it reincarnations?
yeah, it was reincarnations and how it might be a trap. Oh, we were talking about ghosts lingering around.
Oh, ghosts. That's
Like,
what. Okay. That's what. So a lot of the times, if a family member is like really, really having a hard time, and that family member or that person that's passing away is in fear, like it is like was passing actively in fear, they
Mhm.
can stay trapped in that fourth dimension. That is that dimension, that consciousness between going to the light and the physical form. That's kind of where
Hmm.
ghosts hang out, is like that fourth dimension, and they can get stuck there. They can absolutely get stuck there because a family member is not ready to let go, and they're literally pulling their energy back down. Or that they're not ready to go to the light because they're still stuck to the circumstance that happened. Maybe it was a very traumatic experience that happened with their death. And they're still pulled back down to that experience, and they're not ready to let go of that, and they can get stuck.
Hmm. Okay, that makes sense.
Hmm.
So you're saying that like a ghost or a spirit that's sort of trapped there is different from like a demonic being that,
Yeah.
like what we think of as a demon that, wants to like do harm to people or whatever.
Hmm. Yeah.
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 Yeah, that makes
Even
sense
though
because
demonic entities also are in that fourth
yeah.
dimension realm. So it's a very, very, when you are playing in the spiritual, I don't like to say playing, but when you are working with the spiritual realm, you have to be very intentional about who
Mhm.
you're working with and what you are doing and what you're bringing in. Like if you haven't gotten to experience spirit guides, animal guides, whatever that is, I always ask for the highest truth and the highest good of all beings
Mm.
included. So that way it kind of knocks out that fourth demonic spiritual beings. Because you can call, if you're calling in the good, those demonic, those stuck ghosts, whether
Mhm.
they're good, or there's good and bad, yeah, just like the demonic
Right.
and heaven. But you have to be very specific, because if you're calling in the good but you're not saying it correctly, and you're calling it, you can call in anything in your
Yeah.
energy field.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's true though. I don't think ghosts are necessarily evil. I think they're
Yeah.
just they might be lost. I think lost is a good way to put it
Yeah.
because they're
Yeah.
they're sort of between two planes of existence, like two
Hmm.
dimensions. Um, and so yeah, so that makes sense. But like I said earlier, dude, I do believe that there is good and evil, and I think that's
Hmm.
on a dimension that we can't really access at this point. Uh, we were talking earlier about you mentioned Bigfoot, and this made me think of this. So I asked you before we started rolling about mermaids, and when
Hmm.
people hear the word mermaids, they just like completely lose like they just lose focus. But like, do you know the story of what a mermaid is? Like how they exist, if they do exist, how they
See,
exist?
I'm not that into it. I just believe that mermaids exist in that fourth dimension.
Okay,
They can go in between portals, and you see it when you surrender and let go. And then you don't
okay.
see them if you're searching. That's my philosophy. But tell me more, because I don't know too much.
Yeah. So, do you know what the Nephilim are? Like the group of people called the Nephilim, like the
Yes.
giant people or
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah.
All right. So the theory of mermaids are that mermaids at one point were human women that mated with fallen angels. Those children became the Nephilim, the
Oh,
giants,
yeah.
and
Yep.
then God cursed those women eternally by making them mermaids. Um, and so you were talking about these other dimensions. We were talking about earlier about the Anunnaki and how everything sort of exists on this plane. It's
Hmm.
just outside of this area. uh the theory is that those beings still exist, like those Nephilim, those giant people still exist somewhere out there, hundreds of thousands of miles away on this plane.
Hmm.
And then there's been sightings, there's been people see mermaids in the sea or whatever. But I don't know, dude, like the ocean, like forget space, the ocean is like
I was going to say, we've only
incredible,
explored like what,
bro.
8% or something, 5. I don't even know the
Yes.
statistic, but
Yes, and then like, did you see a while back? So this was like a month ago or so, a couple months ago. There was an anglerfish that was found at the surface. Like the fish just got a little thing at the
yeah.
light or whatever.
Uh-huh.
It was found at the surface of the water. Like it was found at the surface. It was dead or whatever. But the theory was it swam up towards the surface, and that thing belongs at the very very bottom. Like
Uh-huh.
first of all, I don't even know how it made it to the top because the pressure down there is so unreal. like, that submarine or whatever went down there a year ago or so, and the pressure is so how it made it the swim from the bottom up to the top, like the pressure change alone would have probably just exploded the animal. You know what I mean?
I wonder if there was like my brain goes to like a portal where it was able to.
Possibly. I mean, because it's like I told you earlier about the flat Earth thing. Everybody loses their mind about flat Earth, but like they will just believe that we live on a ball. And the same people that lied to us about all this other stuff we're talking about told us that the Earth was a globe, and we're just going to believe that and go with that. Like at the very least, question it, man. All the stuff we're talking about the medical system, all this stuff, at least question it.
Yeah.
But the theory of like, there's so many different theories, man. But the one is like the Anunnaki never left Earth; they just live inside the ocean. And then like, so I don't know. I think the reason the ocean is not explored to the degree it is, I mean, it's massive, obviously, and it's inside the water, and we can't operate inside the water like that. But I think it's known that there is something there that we cannot really contend with. I think that I think there's a force, whether that's some sort of alien beings that sort of live somewhere, not in the ocean, but it's probably inside the Earth somewhere. They access through the ocean, but it's like, and then you hear they find artifacts like Atlantis and all this kind of stuff. Like these are real things. I don't know, but it's like, how do you really test that? Like, is the average person going to go down and dive a couple miles into the ocean? No, like there's no way for us to know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I'm not. I'm fucking terrified of the ocean. So that's
I'm telling you, when you see those pictures where it's like somebody swimming at the top, and then like it's taken like right up under the water, you can see them swimming at the top, and then like all the way down the bottom is just like nothing but pitch black.
Yeah,
that's terrifying, man. That is absolutely, because like you don't know what's down there. First of all, when you're at the Mariana Trench, I think it's called the Mariana Trench, the deepest part of the ocean. It's like 30,000 feet or something. If you swim across the Mariana Trench, that is the equivalent of you being at the altitude of an commercial airplane, and then the bottom of the ocean being like the land. So that is like 30,000 feet. That is what that is. So if you could if the water was like clear as it could be, and you look down into the water, you would see what you would see if you look out of an airplane. That is how high. That is how deep. I'm like, that no. Is. Bro, that is crazy, man. And then people voluntarily get in these submarines and stuff, and they went down there to like explore it. I'm like, anyway, whatever. But like,
I would not be in that submarine. I'm just gonna. Well, I would not.
The point is, like, there's no way for us to know what is down there. Yeah, and there's not. Anyway, whatever. But so to get back to energy and the healing for a minute, so how do you work with people who I guess the question would be, the people that you work with, what are the common things that they experience as far as energetic, like, I mean, issues?
burnout 100%, just go mode all the time. Feeling stuck in their business, feeling stuck in their life, stuck in their relationships, which it relates to being stuck in like an energetic pattern, just stuck in consciousness, essentially. Depression, bipolar. I truly love to work with bipolar, suicidal ideation, more of the mental health capacity, as well as people that are wanting to expand into their true potential. But I think that all relates to me. For me, it's all related to connecting them back to their, oh my God, I lit sage and it's like going crazy. I'm sorry, 1 second.
What is that? What's the purpose of that?
So sage is a really good energy cleanser. It's said to instill, like, I think the statistic is like 99%. It's just positive ions towards you and clearing out the negative. It's good for clearing out negative energy.
Did I go too far with the ocean? Are you trying to cleanse your energy?
No, I just, every once in a while, I do it off and on throughout the day.
Okay.
And
I thought it was a defense mechanism.
No. No, I literally just do it, and then now it's just going fucking crazy. It's probably because we started talking about all this shit, so it's like, clear out your home.
It's got some work to do then.
Well, I live in between two cemeteries, and I know I'm meant to live, and I did hospice. It just energetically makes fucking sense of why Jessica lives between two cemeteries. So I actually cleanse my house very well, and I put crystals out to help protect my home, just because of the lost souls that could be in the cemeteries hanging out. But I actually
Are
find
you?
cemeteries very fucking peaceful. So
I don't really know how I feel about cemeteries, man. I mean, I'm not really. I don't know. I'm not
yeah,
scared of them, but like, so my mom passed away in 2018, and I tell people this, like, I've never really felt connected to her at a cemetery. Like, I know people have that
yeah,
experience; they go there to visit their loved ones or whatever. But like,
yeah,
whatever that is for a lot of people, I don't have that experience there.
yeah. Well, it's just
So
for me, it is their physical body in this life form, in this experience that lives there. And for me, yeah, there's really no attachment there for me either. So I think that's why cemeteries, they actually really don't bother me. Is because I'm not attached to the physical 3D part of who that person
right,
was.
well,
Knowing that I
exactly, yeah.
can, yeah, knowing I can still connect. Like my grandma is one of my main spirit guides and she always has been, but she passed away. Oh, this year's 3 years, but I connect and talk with her all the fucking time. Like I can
Mm,
still connect with her spiritually because I know she is there and she
right.
is on the other side. So I think that's why I find cemeteries peaceful because honestly, people pass away because they're wanting peace. And so for
Oh yeah.
me, they're just calm and peaceful because I have this different perspective. I don't look at death as scary. Like death doesn't it doesn't scare me
Hmm.
um at all anymore and it used to. We're usually confined as a society to be very fearful of death. And yeah, we don't want to lose that person because we're so disconnected because people aren't taught, hey, you can connect with them spiritually at any fucking given time.
Well, I do want to know what you mean by that, but I feel like, so with my mom's situation, it was like, and this sounds so cliche, man, but it's like it's real. Like when she passed away, I don't know, a week or so later, I did go to the cemetery, and there was like a rainbow like off in the distance, and it was like it's stuff like that, you know,
Hmm.
like it's stuff like that you would, I guess, maybe experience this, like has nothing to do with a person, you know, like a breeze, or it's this is crazy. I'll tell the story real quick. So I have a landscaping company outside of here, outside of this, and so when we got my mom's name was Brenda, and so when
Hmm.
we picked up our first big commercial client, because that's what we do, is mostly commercial stuff. And the guy, when we got paid for the first time, he was like, "Yeah, go down to accounts payable, and she'll give you your check. Her name is Brenda." I was like, "Bro, what the fuck? What?"
Uh-huh. I
Anyway, so
love it.
it's stuff like that, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, but like I do feel compassion for people who feel that, because that, to me, if you feel that connection in the cemetery, it's like an attachment to that. I guess I think you called it the 3D version, you know, of
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
3D experience of us.
Yeah, and
And I
it's
was
just
talking to a
physical
lady.
body. Yeah.
I was talking to a lady a couple days ago. Her name is Barbara. I did remember this one this time. Her name was Barbara, and she wrote a book on like what not to say at funerals. And anyway, we're talking about. I asked her the question of, well, if somebody has a death and they feel like they don't want to go to the funeral home because that's not the last time they want to see that person in that way. Um, I don't know, because you hear it both ways. You hear people say like, "Oh, you'll regret it if you don't go," or whatever. But it's like, for me, man, that like whatever that experience is, that's not that person. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like that person is who they were inside. Like if you can close your eyes and imagine your experience with that person, that's who that person was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I don't know. I guess, and I do know that I'm fortunate seeing it that way, because a lot of people don't. They do have an attachment to that physical version of that person.
Yeah.
So I do have compassion for that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, it's just all about reconnecting back to you can and like you just asked the spirit guide situation and my grandma, like you truly can connect back and attune to them. They show up as signs. So that rainbow
Mm,
was that sign. That woman that was writing that check, Brenda, that was a
right.
sign from your
Yeah.
mom. Like those,
Right.
we're not paying attention to the signs that the universe, that God, that your spirit guides, that your loved ones are sending you every single day. And that's another thing that hospice taught me tremendously, was to connect back spiritually, that we are all energetic beings. Everything on earth is energy. Every
Mm,
single thing on earth is energy. And you can connect to that energy if you surrender and let go, and not in the egocentric mind of like, oh, I'm trying to connect. Because that's one of the things with some of my clients are like, I want to connect with my spirit guides, but I have no idea how. And I'm like,
mm,
well, are you going in meditation? Are you going outside and looking and searching and like saying, hey, come connect now? Are you in a masculine energy when you're asking for it? It's not going to come. It comes when you surrender and you let go and you trust. And trust is a really, really big thing. And that's one thing I work tremendously on with any of my clients is learning to trust yourself, learning to trust your intuition, learning to trust God, universe, source, whatever that is to you, creating safety in the body. If we can't trust ourselves, if we don't have any safety in our body in this physical realm and in our spiritual realm too. So it's a lot of deconditioning that's happening.
I want to ask something about hospice just real quick, and then we'll get back
Yeah.
to that. Because you've mentioned hospice a couple times, and I don't want to forget this. So when you were working with people in hospice, the people who were sort of satisfied, I guess maybe on their deathbed, and the people who were not satisfied on their deathbed, if you had to narrow it down to like one thing, what do you think the difference would be? The people who were okay with moving on and the people who were not. I know it's
Yeah.
probably there's probably a range, but like if you had to narrow it down to one thing.
If I had to narrow it down, the people that were ready to go would pass a lot easier. They wouldn't have as many physical 3D symptoms of passing.
Right.
Um,
But like, what
and
was one thing that sort of made them like more comfortable with it? Did they feel more fulfilled with their life, or did they feel like
yeah,
like?
I would say it's a range. It depends on that person,
Hmm,
but being more fulfilled and just also knowing that, hey, I lived this part of my life, I had this experience, and I'm okay to move on. A lot of it was
okay,
just being okay and not fearful of death. Now, if we
right.
had people that were still very fearful and didn't want to go, they would hold on for days. Like, you would be
Hmm,
astonished if when people were more in like fear driven modes that didn't feel like they didn't want to go. They're not ready to leave. They had more to do. They had more to say. They not trusting, or they didn't
hmm,
have like a really good, I wouldn't say, a lot of the men that I worked with, obviously, because in the women, I live in the Midwest, so a lot of them were very Christian, spiritual
right.
minded. Um, doing certain ceremony practices would help. Just for my grandma's death, for experience, like she was having a hard time transitioning
Hmm,
until we lit a candle. Once we lit that candle, she transcended and went up. So it's just even little things like that that helped comfort them. Like
right.
I noticed once you've allowed their spirit to feel comfortable of where they are in their home or whatever energy that you needed to bring in. Fire is really known for like helping transmute energy. That's why you
Hmm,
light candles. And blessings too in the Catholic Church. Like lighting candles was a blessing symbolization. So once you actually tune into like what the client, like what the patient needs and getting to know the history a little bit and allowing the family to be on board too, it was just very, very patient specific, I should say. But the
yeah.
main general idea is if they were not in fear driven mode and if they were at peace with going, it was a lot easier transition, a lot
Hmm.
easier.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think death like is heavy for. I mean, obviously, if you lose somebody, that's heavy for you. But like knowing that you are one day going to die, I think that's heavy for a lot of people.
It is.
But I think
Yeah.
also too, it can be like a very big motivator because like your time here is limited. You know, like you
Mm-hmm.
only have. We don't know how much we have, and it is limited. And there is one day is going to be your last day. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, I get why that's like overwhelming and fearful and everything, but it's like, man, you better get to work. Or get to
Mm-hmm.
work or whatever it is that you want to experience, whatever you think you're here to do.
Yeah, well, I think that's just that literally that is a clear, beautiful definition of being egocentric minded in fear or in a higher conscious,
Hmm,
expansive mode of like actually wanting to have fulfillment and to have joy in this lifetime. Joy is actually one of the hardest emotions that we try to activate. We very easily can activate anger. We very easily can activate being pissed off or being resentment, like those lower frequency emotions. We
mhm.
can activate a lot easier than we can activate happiness and joy because it's
Yep.
closer to being connected. So I do a lot of emotional mastery with my clients, like a lot when we look at it in energy terms.
Yeah, I want to get into emotions. Um, can we do this just real quick? Can I stop this just for a second?
Yeah,
Because I got to pee so bad. But I'll be
you're
right
good.
I'll be right back. I'm sorry. I'll be right back.
You're good. Go.
Hey, did you see me almost flip my desk over when I got up and didn't take my headphones off?
No,
I got I got up and walked away, and my headphones were still on. Anyway,
that's hilarious. Well, your
I think
mind was on. You had to fucking pee. So,
Well,
yeah,
I was trying to hurry up too because I didn't want to be holding up progress here.
you're good. All good.
Um,
I get
yeah,
it.
I got up and I was still connected. I was like, oh, uh, so anyway, So emotions, yeah. So what, man, it feels like I feel like emotions are like a very powerful way to access something that's much deeper than what we are able to experience. And
Hmm.
so when you say you help people with emotions, like what do you, is this like processing emotions, like understanding emotions,
Yeah.
like what?
All of the above. So emotions, if we look at it in energy terms, biological standpoint, emotions are just energy in motion. So emotions get stuck in the body whenever we have an experience that may not be what we wanted to experience or what we did want to experience. They actually, those emotions, that energy gets stored in the body. So what happens with trauma? Let me just like baseline here. So trauma is actually a stuck energy that
Yep.
is stuck in your body. It's stuck energy that's there. So for example, just to give some reference, when I was in first grade, I fucking was doing the talent show and I was singing Celine Dion, My Heart Will Go On, with my best
Okay.
friend Ashley. And so bad. You should see the dress I was in and my like cut off like
Dude,
bangs.
that's a
Fucking
tough
awful,
song,
dude.
man.
It
I
is
feel
a
like that's
tough
a tough.
song. Like, why did we pick that? Anyway, got on stage. I was totally fine before, got on stage, completely fucking froze. And like
Mm,
autopilot kicked in. Like I did the motions that we practiced. It was very like I was out of my body at,
yep.
100%.
How old were you again?
Um, 6.
Oh
I
yeah,
think it was
yeah.
6. Yeah. So that caused a lot of stage fright and
Hmm.
stage fear that kept repeating for a very, very, very long time. But that stuck energy, I can now identify it. I have now healed from that, but I had to subconsciously go back to that moment and go back and actually move that energy from that experience because that experience was stored in my body. So that's where somatics comes into play. Somatic healing, somatic work is body based work. It's looking at the nervous system. Where are these experiences stored in your body and what thoughts do you have about that experience and that perspective? So it's all
Mm,
about like energy and perspective shifting too. So there's a really awesome framework that I do with my clients. It's inner child work. Inner child healing is literally the whole foundational aspect of your thought
yep.
processes now as an adult. our um our prefrontal cortex is not all the way developed until we're 25. So
Mm,
even all the way up till 25, like all those experiences are just getting stored left and right in our body. But really 0 to 7, ages like 0 to 7, that's where your core foundational belief systems are instilled in you, is during those childhood times. So anyway, I take myself and my clients back through subconscious work is just hypnosis. It's not, you're not, there's there's a lot of different, oh, what's the fucking word? People think hypnosis is so bad. And I'm like, it's
mm,
actually not. It's a deeper meditation state, and you're accessing your subconscious a lot easier than having
yeah.
your egocentric mind and your critical faculty, which is another part in your brain. It
Hmm.
allows it to be more open. So you're more adaptable to letting these things safely come out. It's all about safety too. So that's why I say safety is like the number one fucking thing with your nervous system and your healing journey.
Right.
Um, anyway, but so long story short is when we go through somatic hypnosis, it's accessing deeper parts of you because we have so much wisdom. Your body
Mm,
has so much wisdom that it is truly holding on to. And when we're able to shift and tap into that, you have to be in a calm, healing state. You can't be in a hypervigilant state. You can't be in a heightened nervous system. You can't be in fight or flight to access those things. What do you think society is in 98% of the time?
I mean, I don't want to say it may be flight or flight or fight or flight,
Yes.
but I feel like it's more like do, like production, like whatever production would be, like just
Yeah.
do, you know?
Well, there's a difference. So there's a difference between fear driven fight or flight or doing, like the masculine, like good
Mm,
masculine energy. Because I think sometimes people label like fight or flight as always being bad, and it's not. If you are being productive and you are working and you are doing, but are you connected to your brain or are you on autopilot when you're in doing? That's the
right.
key.
Yeah.
So there's also those parts that, yes, you can activate your, I want to say healing doesn't happen when you are in a heightened state, when you are doing, when you are XYZ, your body, it can't heal. Like you
Mm,
have to rest, you have to be grounded, you have to be present, emotional. So this is for emotions, physical, this goes for physical too. You got to
right.
think when you're working out, you are building muscle, you are doing, you're doing the things, but your muscles rest or your muscles build and recover when you are in a rest phase. So that's the same with emotions. You guys, like processing emotions, like tapping into your intuition, tapping into the wisdom of your body, the energies of your body even. There's just so much that can be done.
So you don't think we can heal by in the doing? Like you don't think we can heal that way? Because I feel like some of the like worst parts of my life, I've been the most productive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when my mom passed away,
Yeah.
after that year, a couple years after that, I was
Uh-huh.
very productive.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it's dependent, like I said, on the fuel that it's providing you with. Were you healing probably when you were being that's a question for me, for you, is were did you feel healed when you was yours like a business thing? Like was it a thought that came in when you were in a calm, grounded state and like thinking,
So
or was it being like super masculine?
I don't really know how to answer that question, but I can tell you that I did allow myself to grieve, but I did that
Hmm.
in mostly in private. Like I needed to be,
Yeah.
and I'm usually not a private person. I usually like being around people, depending on the people. But like at that time, I was with my family and stuff,
Hmm.
and then my personal grieving was in private. I did that
Yeah.
privately. Um, but I don't know, the like being productive and trying to do things. I mean, that's probably to some extent a flight or fight response. Like I'm sure it is because like I've done that same thing since. Like having a business, man, you have ups and downs, and every
Yeah.
single time I have a down, it's almost like I retaliate by being productive to have an up again.
Yep.
You can say maybe that's not a good way to handle it, but like it gets shit done, like
Well, for men especially too. So there's a huge different, like biologically, how men are made is way different than how women are meant to be made. Women are
mm,
meant to be more in their feminine. Men are meant to be more in their masculine and more productive because that's how your
mm,
hormone system is based. That's how you get your dopamine. That's how you get all of
yeah,
your other good hormones. Female biological system is a little bit different. It
mm,
is pretty much the opposite, obviously.
right.
That's why there's that polarity between men and women. So it just depends on what do you look at as healing. You can heal by doing productivity, but it's all about, well, when did that healing space occur for you most? It was probably when you were alone and you were in your
Mm,
safe zone. You were with yourself. You were able to process in order to then go do XYZ. But healthy motivation, was that a healthy motivator for you? Probably,
mhm.
versus it being unhealthy. And that's where sustainability comes in with entrepreneurs, honestly. It's are you doing, are you manifesting, are you whatever you're doing because of you don't want to be poor? Or are you doing it because you want to expand and you want to XYZ? Like, what's the energy behind what you're doing?
Yeah. See, this is why I love that you bring this up because I was talking to Pastor Mark Collins last week on the podcast, and I mentioned that I think that I can't speak for women, but I think for men, if God allows something negative to happen in your life, I think that's a gift from God because the motivation that comes from that is
Hmm.
like you can't create that, you can't buy that anywhere,
Yeah.
and so I would say whatever the definition of a man is, I think some of the best men I know have been through some shit in their life, and they've used
100%.
that, yeah, and they've used that for productive ways, you know. Uh,
Absolutely.
and so, and that's why I say it's like a gift to God. And I also think if we have that experience and we don't use that to better ourselves and better the
Hmm.
lives of people around us, I feel like that's disrespectful to God and to not do it, to not use
Hmm.
that way. Because like,
Hmm.
if somebody gives you a gift and they come to your house and they realize you threw it in the trash, like they're probably going to feel some kind of way about that, you know?
Hmm.
So like if God gives us this, what I think is a gift, and then we don't use it to then better ourselves
Yeah.
in our lives, the people around us. I mean, how is that not disrespectful?
Yeah.
Now you could say I'm using that perspective on it to make myself feel better about it. Maybe it's a defense mechanism. I don't know.
Hmm.
But the point is that like, if I'm doing it the right way and I do it the way I hope that I'm doing it, like it's going to make my life and the people around me, their lives better. So
And that's the
is that,
key.
I mean, yeah,
And that's the key. It's yeah,
yeah,
and that's the same with me too. When I went through my divorce and being a single mom, that was a hell of a fucking motivator. And I told
mm,
myself, I said, "There's no other choice than other than my business to be successful. so I can have freedom. I can do what I want with my kids, and I can have the financial freedom to take my kids on adventures when I want to. And
Right.
knowing that, that was a huge negative, that what we would look at as negative motivator, but it allowed me to step into my purpose of what I want to
Mm,
do now. So I do firmly believe that negative motivators are fucking epic. And those
yeah.
lessons that we have are epic, and they're going to light a fire under your ass to get you moving and where God wants to take you 100%. But it's also part of the nervous system of like, why do I have to have that experience every time? And that's where I was at, my personal experience. I was like, why do I have to get at a huge fucking breakdown moment every time to have an epic breakthrough? That was one of my
Mm,
core beliefs every time. Like, why do I have to have so much negative motivators in order to get my ass going? Like, that's not sustainable. So now looking at it as an entrepreneur realm, it's just, it is hard. Like, let's be
oh
honest.
yeah.
Like the first
Yeah.
5 years, fucking hard, dude.
Yeah.
Um, but then you get to the point of like, okay, now I want more sustainability to where I don't have to have these negative motivators all the fucking time, and I can be in more ease and more in flow, and it's just a little more peaceful along the
Mm,
journey. But it was looking at my belief system of like, I grew up very angry dad, but he was very hard working. Midwest,
mm,
works 24/7, literally. He dropped out of school at 16. He has his own business. We were very poor until probably about 15, when I was about 15 or 16. Very poor. We lived in a trailer. Like, I haven't I had a really good everything provided for emotional wise. We
hmm.
didn't talk about emotions at all. So it was always negative fight or flight driven. My whole childhood, even moving up until my recent divorce too a couple years ago. So I think it's just at the level where you are at, but then it's like, how can we just create more sustainability with our emotions, with our emotional regulation, to where it's like we don't have to have these negative motivators to light a fire under our ass. How do we do that without having to be like, oh fuck, I only have $1,000 in my bank account for the whole month. I better get on it.
Yeah.
And that was
Well,
a
so
huge like thing for me.
yeah, and I think that's a good point too, because I think there's a difference in being reactive and being responsive. Because
Yes.
if you just wait until you have, X number of dollars, if it's not what you need or whatever, and then you do something, that's being reactive, and that's not
Yeah.
you can't be sustainable that way. I
No.
think I think another way to do that is I think resilience is obviously a big thing for entrepreneurs, and I think
Hmm.
one of the ways you do that is you change what you think these failures mean, like what these bad things mean to you,
Yeah.
because otherwise you're just going to be sitting there, having all these things thrown at you and failing left and right, and that's tough on anybody.
Hmm.
um I just noticed the time. I'm not trying to
Oh,
keep you here. I'm not trying to keep you here all day. I can't believe we've been talking this long. I think we talked like 20 minutes before we started rolling. um Let me do this. Are you on social media? Can you be found online? Do you have anything
yeah.
you want to share?
Yeah. Yeah. Instagram, Jessica Ann _ co is my Instagram. And then just Facebook is Jessica Ann. So that's the two spots to find me.
Okay.
But we can
Um,
totally do a part two. Come back on and
yeah,
jam out some more.
dude, I think we're gonna have to because we've barely scratched the surface.
Yeah.
Like we're still inside the ice wall, and I want to get outside of this realm right here and talk about some more things. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
that was a bad joke. That was a very bad joke. Uh, so okay. So one thing that I ask everybody before we leave, and I think you're gonna have a good answer to this. If you could share one of the most important lessons you've ever learned, it can be from your nursing
Oh,
career, from your personal life, if you're comfortable sharing it. What do you think?
one of the most important lessons. Ooh, speaking up. I didn't speak up for a long time.
Mm,
It took me a long time to be able to actually speak up and to have boundaries, like energetic boundaries too. So just being able to speak up, even as a woman, because I was shut down for so long. We didn't talk, like
mm.
I said, we didn't talk about emotions growing up. So that was actually that's one of the biggest lessons I still work on. But my voice has opened up tremendously, and just being my authentic self too, of not trying to be like somebody else. So just speaking my truth.
Hmm. You know, one of the reasons I like that is because if whatever we all have something to offer the world, we have a unique
Absolutely.
perspective, we have a unique
Hmm.
thing, and if you don't have the power to speak up, you could miss that. You could live your entire
Hmm.
life. You could be one of those people that you work with in hospice who never felt fulfilled because they didn't bring their thing to the world.
Yep.
And that's why I was asking you earlier about that, because I think whatever that thing is for us, man, I think if we I think if reincarnation was a thing and we were going to do this over again, I think that would be the reason, because we didn't do what we were supposed to do the first time. And I say
Absolutely.
supposed to, like that's like a heavy way to say it, but I think there's something we're
I
supposed
think
to
you're
do
so
here.
right there, though. Like, you're spot on.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I mean,
I like that perspective.
it's just like, that's terrifying to me to get to that space in life and just like to think back about, man, like I was supposed to do, like, like,
Yeah.
damn, that's like,
Honestly, you wouldn't believe how many. That was actually one of the key points I took away too. Sorry, I know that you're trying to hop off, but that was one of the key things. That was my
no, you're good.
favorite part of hospice, was actually sitting, listening to the people that were fulfilled and what they did, and not having any regrets about how they showed up in life and how they were able to really do what they wanted to do in this lifetime. Those were the people that were A-okay with going along.
Yeah. That's kind
Yeah.
of what I was asking earlier. Like, did those people feel
Mhm.
like they were fulfilled? They did what they
Yeah.
were supposed to do here.
Yeah.
Because man, it's crazy, but like, and we can talk about self-confidence and like the importance of these things, but the ability to maybe it's not even speak your voice. Maybe you're somebody who, you're more reserved and you're an artist or something, you do things visually, whatever it
Mhm.
is, whatever that thing is that you bring, the confidence to bring that to the earth is like, is incredible. Um,
Mhm.
and so next time we do this, I'd be interested to ask you like how you found that voice. Like, what was it that helped you
Yeah.
step out into that space? Cause,
Healing all my fucking trauma.
yeah, I mean,
Short answer.
because that's a big thing for people, man. Like,
Mhm.
because like with me, like when I started my business, I was 20 years old when I started the business. I was 20 years old, 2 months before my 21st birthday. And all my friends were like either going out to college or starting families or buying homes or whatever. And it was like, nobody really knew what I was trying to do. But I was like, listen, man, I can't
Mhm.
explain this to you. All I know is, first of all, I can't punch a clock because this shit is draining my soul. Like, it is killing me
Mhm.
to be at these jobs for 10 hours a day. And it was like, but like, I guess for me, it was a little bit different because I knew that was what I wanted to do. But there's a lot of people in those situations where their family doesn't support them, nobody understands them around them, and they just feel like they're doing something wrong by pursuing that route for themselves. And I don't know, man. You just don't know what the world would miss out on if people just didn't do like what they could do.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
So
Yep. Yeah, we could totally dive into that. That's a whole thing. That's like a whole
yeah,
hour and a half conversation of just the
for,
energy and
I bet
unlocking
it
the
is.
trauma that's there. So,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Well,
short
listen, man.
answer, that's what it is.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm gonna let you get out of here. Eh, hang out for just a second. I need to explain to you the upload situation, but I do appreciate your time and insight
Yeah,
here today.
absolutely.
Thank you.
It was fun. Thank you.
Hey guys, I appreciate everybody tuning in today. If you enjoyed this podcast or enjoyed this episode, you can find more at Pure Wisdom Podcast. This is on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Rumble, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple and Google Podcasts. There you can subscribe, like, and share and interact with all of our content. Again, we appreciate it, and we will see you next time.